Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Before we start, I just want to say if you watch this success story and you feel like putting a comment down that it's BS or some negative comment, these are real people that I am interviewing. Real people. Mums, dads, daughters, sisters, brothers. They're just ordinary people who've got an extraordinary story. If you don't want to believe it, then you just switch off, because you writing something like that gives other people the wrong message. All these success stories about giving people hope, and true stories give people hope. Okay. So there's no vested interest. I don't make tons of money out of this. All my guests don't make tons of money. They haven't got anything to sell. They're just telling their story. So with that being said, welcome to another interview. Today, I've got the fabulous Emily with me. I cannot wait for this one. I've been waiting for 2-3 weeks now. Hi, Emily. Why did you want to tell your story?
Hi, everyone. My name's Emily. I wanted to tell my story today to spread the message of hope. I am a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed in 1991. I am insulin dependent. My body does not produce insulin. Since the age of 9, I have been either injecting up to 6 injections a day of insulin or on an insulin pump. For 33 years, I've been living with diabetes. I followed the American Diabetes Association recommendations for 30 of those years, and my blood sugars were very uncontrolled. My blood sugars would be anywhere from 400, and then the next 2 hours it'd be in the 30s, which is life-threatening dangerous. I was told that I had to eat 3 meals a day. I had to eat 45 grams of carbs for breakfast, 45 for lunch, 45 for dinner, 3 snacks in between with 15 grams of carbohydrates in between. And I also, being a type 1 diabetic, had a formula that for every 15 grams of carbohydrate, I had to take 1 unit of insulin. So you can imagine I am taking all these extra units of insulin that I found out later are not necessary. For decades, I would have high blood sugars. I would go into what they call ketoacidosis. I would have to be hospitalized. I would get my blood sugars, what they called stabilized, which is just basically your blood is no longer acidic, and then I would be discharged. This happened about every 6 months for 30 years. Due to that, I now have end-stage kidney failure. August of 2020, I went on the kidney transplant list at Vanderbilt. My estimated EGFR was 14 at that time. I have a nephew named Shepherd who has spastic epilepsy. He had an accident when he was 3 months old, and one of his neurologists recommended something called the keto diet. And that was the first time ketogenesis or ketogenic diet that term was ever introduced into my life. I asked all of my doctors, all of my specialists, have you had success? Have patients had success with this, managing their diabetes? And I would get responses like, there's no long-term studies on that, or we haven't had patients that have had success with that. So in August of 2020, I basically said, why not give it a try? And through my father's encouragement and another friend, I went keto, which for me was consuming less than 20 grams of carbohydrates a day. I got an app on my phone, and I would calculate all of my grams of carbohydrate, my grams of fat, my grams of protein. It was very time consuming at that point in time. I dedicate a lot of my time to calculations and formulations. And within about 90 days, my A1Cs went from 13s and 14s to in the 6s. My endocrinologist, my diabetes specialist, was amazed. She was, what are you doing? She was asking me questions. I'm currently using an insulin pump that has a continuous glucose monitor attached to it. So when my blood sugars would go up, it would give me extra insulin. When my blood sugars would go down, it would cut off my insulin. Before going keto, I was taking 120 units of insulin a day on average. I don't take long-term insulin. It's only short-acting insulin that I give myself through my pump. After I went keto, I was down 60% less insulin. So I was doing about 45, 50 units a day when I went keto. In August of 2021, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. My hands and my joints, I could barely move them. I had a lot of joint swelling, fatigue. My mother also has rheumatoid arthritis that runs in our family. So I basically went on Humira, a biologic. I also have eczema over 80% of my body at that time. I was on another biologic for that. And beginning of this year, I was on a total of 19 different medications. And I was basically a slave to going to doctors, doing what they say, taking my medicine, being a good little girl, and just doing what they say. After I came across a Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson video, my father introduced this idea of carnivore diet. We started kind of bouncing around. My father and I are very, very close. And we started bouncing around the idea of going carnivore together. He went keto with me also in 2020 on the hopes of he could get his diabetes. He had type 2 diabetes under control. And in the hopes of when I needed a kidney, he could give me a kidney. That was the goal. Turns out at the end of the day, he's not a match, and I don't need a kidney anyway right now. My kidney function has improved so much. So beginning of this year, 2024, I went full on carnivore, which for me means beef, butter, bacon, eggs. I do cheat and have my coffee in the morning. Occasionally I will have some cheese. But that's basically the extent of my nutrition. I eat one meal a day. I eat when I'm hungry. I don't eat when I'm not hungry. I'm now on 82.5% less insulin than I was before I started keto. My last A1C was 5.4, which is reading like a non-diabetic, which is miraculous. I have never had this much success ever in managing my diabetes. My last EGFR was 29. So my EGFR has actually doubled, increased since I started the keto diet. Since I started carnivore, I'm no longer taking my RA medicine. Look, I can get my metal wedding rings on. No joint pain. I have full mobility. I have no eczema. I don't know if you can see my face. I have no scaly, dry patches on my wrists, on my hands, on my arms. It's all gone. And those medications I no longer need. My blood pressure has normalized. My last blood pressure was 107/62. It used to be 145/100, very high. I'm off of my 2 blood pressure medications. I feel better than I have ever felt since I can remember, since I've been diagnosed at the age of 9. I literally feel better at the age of 42, almost 43 in a month, than I did when I was 9 years old. And I feel like I've been so incredibly blessed that I want to share this blessing with other people. I want you to know that there is hope out there. Do not give up on yourself. Try the carnivore diet for 90 days. Just try it. Just try it and give your body a little bit of time and see what will happen. I mean, my father's gone carnivore with me. He's almost 70 and he has this chicken farm and he runs around like a teenage boy, picking up bales of hay. He used to have excruciating back pain. It's gone. His diabetes, gone. He's off medications. I mean, it's such a free feeling. It is like being reborn. I'm not on social media. I don't have Facebook. But I started a YouTube channel just to spread the word. I'm not trying to get, I don't want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to be a YouTube star. I just want people out there to know You can change your health. Take back your power. You have power. Use your power. Don't live in that victimhood of I have this disease or that disease or that disease. Because let me tell you, like I had a list of diseases. I still have, but a lot of them are in remission or they're asymptomatic or they're stabilized. And the joy is returning in my life. The hope is back. Never give up on yourself. There is always hope. Even no matter how ill you are, there's always room for improvement. Now, I'm not crazy. I don't think that my type 1 diabetes is going to be cured one day unless I go to heaven and I can come off insulin. But it is now managed. It's not just managed, it's within range of normalcy. I have discovered a way for me to have normal blood sugars. And all you do is just don't eat sugar. Don't eat grains, don't eat rice, no potatoes. Cut all of that out of your diet and just stick to protein, meat, and fat. That's it. That's all I do. And drink water. And that's about it. I mean, it's not rocket science. Like I went to my endocrinologist a couple weeks ago and I brought a book that I've been reading by Dr. Richard Bernstein called The Diabetes Solution. And seriously, next to my bed is my Bible and that book. Those two books are like life-saving. And I brought that book in and it's like 600 pages long. It's thick. And she goes, well, most diabetics aren't as smart as you. And I said, well, I appreciate the compliment. However, it doesn't take intelligence just to eat meat. A dog can just eat meat. You biologically, instinctually know what to eat. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You don't have to read the book. Just eat meat. Don't eat anything else. And there you go. That's all. It doesn't take a degree or a book or anything like that to treat your diabetes, to treat these health conditions. Instead of medication, you can do it through nutrition. I don't even like calling it the carnivore diet because to me, diet was like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds to fit into my wedding dress in a week. It's like a bad word. And I call it the carnivore nutrition. That's what it really is. I am giving my body the nutrients it needs to heal. I have severe neuropathy in my feet. I've been diagnosed with a disease called Charcot. I've broken 13 bones in one foot and 4 in my other one. 2019 was the last time I had fractures. I'm in regular shoes now. I'm not having to wear my braces. It's a whole new lease on life. I had a really bad foot ulcer. That is healed. That is gone. It literally is world changing. It is, I don't know how else it's so profound and such a huge change that I can't even put words on it. Yes, I've lost weight also, but that's just like the cherry on top. Like everything else is what I was going for. I really wasn't going for the weight loss. I kind of just resigned myself that I was going to be the big girl, like the fat girl for all of my life, but I'm down 90 pounds. 90 pounds. I mean, that's like a person. And I feel so much better. I feel vibrant. And I don't know another word to Coach Stephen to even articulate it. It's just such a blessing. It is. I'm so grateful that I had the eyes to see and the ears to hear and followed my gut. And I know it's horrible, but I went against medical advice and I'm proving them wrong. Now, when I go to doctor's offices, they ask me questions instead of me asking them. They ask me questions like, hey, what exactly are you eating? And I tell them and they'll tell me things like red meat is bad for diabetes. It's going to give you a heart attack. Well, at least I'm going to go to heaven feeling the best that I've ever felt. All right. At least I'm going to go feeling like a spring chicken. I mean, I can't even tell you, the brain fog is gone. The joy is returned. I used to be so depressed. I mean, my depression and anxiety was so debilitating for me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was suicidal at a point. I felt like my life was over and that my fate was, I'm going to be an amputee. I'm going to go blind. I'm going to be on dialysis. And to have the health reverse and to have the health come back and to be able to feel my feet again and to be able to walk and to be able to jump and run. And I do have moments of depression and doubt still, but I'm no longer on depression or anxiety medication. I'm no longer suicidal. I am filled. My cup is overflowing with joy now. And it's such a relief to have that off of me. It's like it was tar just covering me with depression and darkness, and it's lifted. And all I can say is just praise God. I mean, it is nothing short of a miracle. My life is completely 180 changed. And now my mission is to get the word out, to spread hope to everybody, whether you have arthritis or depression or anxiety or whatever it is. I've met recently 3 type 2 diabetics, and we now text and talk, and I'm trying to advise them. I'm not your doctor, but this is what I have experienced personally. And I think that speaks a lot more than a medical textbook does.
Absolutely. That was beautiful, Emily. And of course, you're going to be emotional because it's huge what's happened to you, absolutely huge. And you've snuck in a few things, and I just want to point out to listeners, it isn't rocket science. It's not rocket science that a disease that is inflicting someone where it's high blood sugar is cured or reversed or the symptoms eased by not putting much sugar into your mouth. To me, that's really simple. So when you said that you didn't follow the American Diabetes Association guidelines and you thought that was horrible, sadly, it works when you don't listen to them. And that's actually what's horrible, that they're telling people to eat 3 to 6 times a day, 45 grams of carbohydrates a day. And that's what the problem, that's the problem in the body. They can't actually deal with that amount of carbohydrate. So you have to inject insulin. Just so you know, that's a 90-year-old theory that came about before they understood insulin. And what happened was they invented a longer acting insulin by adding a compound and zinc. And because it was longer acting, people were going hypoglycemic and having insulin shock. So they decided that the easiest way, and get this, it wasn't to reduce the dosage or maybe inject twice a day or 3 times a day. It was to eat more, to eat 6 times a day and to eat carbohydrates to cover the insulin, not the other way around. So they're still doing that, and it's 90 years now. It's not working. And, if we look at people in the street, there's more diabetes now than there was 90 years ago or 50 years ago. It used to be called late onset diabetes. I know type 1 is different because it's an autoimmune and you're not producing the insulin, but it's the same principle that if you give yourself, and you mentioned Richard Bernstein's book, if you give yourself a smaller problem, as in smaller amounts of carbohydrates, so therefore your blood glucose goes up a smaller amount, you need less insulin. It's so obvious. It's frustrating that it is so obvious. But anyway, these success stories, they definitely do what you want. They give people hope. I mean, you saw one of mine and contacted me. I've got somebody I know will be watching when this goes out, because we're at the beginning of this journey where they're on the transplant list, and they contacted me and said, right, I want to try this and see what happens. For people watching, the EGFR is an estimated glomerular filtration rate. It's an estimated number of the filtration rate of the kidney. We in this, when we analyse it, we want it over 60, but if it's at 14, that's quite low. You can go on a transplant list at 14. Getting it to 29 is amazingly good. Apparently that's not possible, but it is, and I keep seeing it. That's the second thing. Thirdly, when you start eating carnivore, if the EGFR doesn't move as much as you like, you could get what's called a cystatin C test, which is a much better test. It's not estimated, and you'll be surprised, because I think in every single case, the filtration rate has been even better with the cystatin C test, because it's not using some numbers, some some assumptions that are not right about the diet. So that's great. Emily, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that weight loss was a side effect, which is really great because you were talking about health and you lost 90 pounds. And that makes it seem like it's easy to lose 90 pounds. Would you say it is because you weren't focusing on it, or would you just say it is simply a side effect of eating differently?
For me, it was a side effect. Like I said, I had basically at that point given up and resigned myself to just being the fat girl. And I was honestly comfortable being the fat girl. I just resigned myself that I was going to be 300 pounds. So it wasn't all at once. The weight loss didn't happen all at once. It would be, I think the first week I lost 5 pounds and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's something. And then slowly, year by year, like I would plateau for a little bit on my weight loss. And then it would kick back up. Like last month, beginning of June, my family and I went on vacation. We went on holiday, and I had been stalled. And when I got back from vacation, ever since, I've lost another 10 pounds since vacation. And I don't focus on it. It's not, I'm okay if I gain weight. I'm okay with that because I know it's not fat I'm gaining, it's muscle I'm gaining. I now have like an outline of ab muscles. It's phenomenal. So weight loss is a bonus. I mean, to be 100% honest, it kind of makes me uncomfortable to think that I'm going to be like the skinny girl or the athletic girl. But I'm just going to have to get used to it. It's a process for me. It's like a mental change that I'm no longer the sick Emily. I am the healthy Emily. And if that means that my weight continues to go down, I'm great with it. If it goes up, I'm great with it. As long as I feel as good as I feel right now or continue to improve, I'm going to keep rocking it. I'm going to keep going with it because
Brilliant.
it is, I feel so much better. Like it's night and day difference. I felt like a -1 before, and now I'm like 8. I am running on all cylinders. It's like, I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat lunch. My poor husband, I love him to death, but he is not carnivore. He's not keto. He's 6'4" and like string bean skinny, eats all the sugar and carbs he wants. And on the weekends when he's home, because he works, he's like, what are we going to have for breakfast? I'm like, I don't know. You're on your own. I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat. So now it's like, he's lost his chef kind of, because I don't cook 3 meals a day because I don't need them anymore. You know, I'm just not hungry. I eat when I'm hungry. I don't eat when I'm not hungry, and I let my hunger be the signal. I stop when I get full, and that's it. I don't measure anything. I don't count calories. I don't count protein grams. When I was doing keto, I was very meticulous and measured everything, and it was almost an obsession. And now it's just like, I don't know how many calories I eat every day. I eat until I'm full, and then I'm done. I mean, that's
simple.
It's
brilliant. You mentioned your husband there.
Easy. Once your body switches to burning fat.
Yeah, it is. It's so easy when you stop being a sugar burner or sugar eater and you're eating fat and you're burning fat. You mentioned your husband there. Were your family supportive when you decided to go carnivore? I know you said that, your father introduced you, but were other members of the family supportive?
I think they're, it depends what your definition of supportive is. My family is encouraging. They see the difference in me. They see that I'm on less medication. I used to have to get hemoglobin boosting injection shots called Reticrit. I used to have to get that every other week. Now I only get it every 2 months. So they see a difference. They see that my positivity is coming back. My happiness is coming back. So they see a difference and they're supportive, but they don't do it themselves. They're not at the place like my father will do it. My mother's kind of like a keto whore. She'll eat some vegetables, but mainly meat and cheese. But yeah, they're supportive, they're encouraging, but my father's the only one that walks the walk with me, if you know what I'm saying. But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, we are living, walking, breathing proof. I mean, you can look at my results, my test results, my numbers do not lie.
Well, yes, I agree with you there. But also, I would say the way you present and, everything you say is just really amazing. Could you just briefly touch on the retina doctor as well that you mentioned in the email? What's happened there?
Oh, yes. I see a retina specialist. I have been since 2014 getting hemorrhages in the blood vessels in the back of my eye. It's called diabetic retinopathy. That's the leading cause of blindness right now in the world is diabetes and complications from diabetes, the retinopathy. So I have been getting injections. Yes, I said injections into my eyeballs every 6 to 8 weeks since 2014. So last Wednesday, I went to my retina specialist and they did an angiogram where they put dye into your vein and they look in the veins, the blood vessels in the back of your eyes. And I don't need injections anymore. He doesn't want to see me for another 6 months. I have not been able to go 6 months without seeing my retina doctor since 2014. So I brought Richard Bernstein's book in with my office visit. I was reading it. And he's like, what are you reading? I'm like, I'm reading about how to manage your diabetes using the ketogenic diet. And he goes, oh, it's very hard to get in ketosis. I'm like, no, it's not. You just eat meat. It's not. It's really not. So he kind of poo-pooed it. But like I said, the proof is in the pudding. I don't have to see him for another 6 months. Love you, but bye.
It's very frustrating when all these medical professionals are seeing with their own eyes and using the clinical equipment all these changes, but still poo-pooing what you're doing. I just can't believe that happens. But I've heard it over 200 times on video success stories and maybe 1,000 times with people I've coached, believe it or not, in the last 10 years. It's absolutely demoralizing, but we fight the good fight and we spread the word. So your kidney function has doubled, and your eyes have improved, your arthritis has improved, your blood glucose management has improved. It's amazing. And you were talking about your foot as well. Now, could you just go on into that for a little bit for me?
Certainly. It was 2017 when I broke my first bone. It was actually St. Patrick's Day. I stepped off a curb. I didn't twist my ankle or anything, but when I stepped, I felt a pop. I felt it and I heard it. I didn't know what it was. So I went to the urgent care and they diagnosed me with something called plantar fasciitis. So they put me kind of in a splint, told me to do stretches and physical therapy. And about 6 months after that, I felt another pop when walking. And then I went to a specialist, a foot doctor, and they did an x-ray. And I actually had 3 complete fractures in my left foot. That led to my gait, my walk having to change. And due to my walk changing, I developed an ulcer on the bottom of my big toe of my left foot. That became infected and necrotic. The tissues were dying around that foot ulcer. I would have to go every week and get it debrided, which is, I don't want to get into the gnarly details, but it is very unpleasant to get a wound debrided weekly. And that happened for 2.5 years. I would go every week, get the wound debrided. I would keep weight off of it on a knee scooter until finally they put me on what they call a wound vac. I was in the hospital. The infection was actually to the point where it was almost to the bone. They considered amputating it. Thank goodness they did not. They put me on a wound vac for 6 weeks, and that wound vacuum provided enough suction pressure that the wound was able to heal from the bottom up. And I no longer have that ulcer. I have a nice little scar on the bottom of my big toe, but the ulcer healed. But shortly after that, it was June of 2019, I broke 3 bones in my right foot this time, complete fractures, and 9 more micro fractures in my left foot. So I actually got married October 19th of 2019, and I was in what they call crow boots, walking boots, which they're big, tall boots to provide adequate support so you don't break any more bones. I got married outside and I was on a knee scooter and I rolled my knee scooter down the aisle. I remember the nurse the week before, she officially diagnosed me with Charcot foot disease, which your bones basically deteriorate. The diabetes washes away the bone material and your bones become very, very brittle. And you break them just by standing, just by rotating your feet, you will get a fracture. And I remember the nurse telling me, well, I guess you're going to have to cancel your wedding. And I said, no, honey, I'm rolling down that aisle. Nothing's stopping me. So since I started keto, I do have specific inserts that I put into, I wear a certain brand of shoes, Hoka Bondi. They have a lot of padding in them. And since that, and starting keto carnivore, I have not broken one bone. No more pain, no more joint swelling, no more foot ulcers. All of that has healed and resolved. Matter of fact, about a month ago, I made a comment to my husband, my toes kind of feel funny. And then it occurred to me, wait, I'm feeling my toes. I have not been able to feel my toes in probably 10 or 12 years. You could literally chop off my toes and I would not feel them because the neuropathy was so bad. But now I can feel my big toes again. And it's a weird sensation when you start getting feeling back. And I'll tell my podiatrist, I can feel that. They don't, oh no, nerves don't regenerate. Yes, they do. I am living proof. Once you get your blood sugar under control and managed and in a healthy, normal zone for long enough, your nerves do regenerate. And I'm walking proof of it. I walk, I run, I go up and down stairs. I'm not on a knee scooter. I do whatever kind of activity I want to do. And it's such a free feeling to not have to have that worry of, oh, if I step too hard, I might break a bone. My bones are stronger now than they've ever been.
Yes. Oh, it just you said you're living proof, and that doesn't trigger me, but it does frustrate me because they just keep seeing it. You know, different health professionals keep seeing these fantastic results, and rather than embracing it or finding out more, they just immediately demoralize and say, no, that can't be possible. But it's your own experience. And why would you lie? I just find it unbelievable. It's yeah. I don't want to get onto a rant about all this, but you are one of those people that has had so many miraculous things happen and so many stories. It's quite disappointing in a way that there aren't medical professionals that have shone through, you know, in bits of your story like, oh wow, I love what you're doing and I'm going to tell everybody. It's mostly they just don't believe you. And you also had anemia, I think, didn't you?
Yes. It's a complication from the kidney filtration rate being so low. So I was requiring a medication called Reticrit. I was requiring that every 14 days. My hemoglobin normally is like 12 to 16 is normal, the normal range. I was in the 7s and the 8s. And I remember my oncologist telling me, it's like somebody has cut your arm and a third of your blood is on the floor. He goes, you're missing a third of your blood. That's why you feel so poor. Now, I haven't noticed a difference since starting keto, but since I started carnivore, that's a different story. Now I only need a Reticrit injection maybe every 2 months. I can go 3 months sometimes. If my hemoglobin's under 11 is when I get an injection, and I haven't had an injection in 6 weeks now. I went week before last, and the doctor, at first, when I told him what I was doing, he was very, red meat is bad for blood vessels and it's bad for diabetes, and just rattled off all the negativity that's basically been brainwashed into him. And last meeting, he was asking me questions like, tell me exactly what you're eating every day. Like, this is not common for somebody with kidney failure and anemia like this to be able to go this long without injections. So it's kind of turning. I feel like at least my doctors, because it's been so long, they've seen the suffering that I've gone through. And now I'm a different, my mentality is different. The mental part, I think, is the biggest change in me. That's evident. And doctors are now asking me, tell me exactly what you're doing. My endocrinologist, matter of fact, last time I went, she saw my A1C at 5.4. She called me her rock star patient and asked me what I was doing. I mentioned the book. I brought it in. She'd never even read the book. So I said, I would suggest you read this book, and perhaps, like, if your patients want a different option, even if it's against the standard of care that you've been taught to tell them, suggest the book and help, work as a team with them. I even mentioned that I had a YouTube channel, and she goes, okay, I can send my patients to your YouTube channel. And I was like, please do. I am more than willing to walk any person that is open-minded through this process. I would love to get people off their diabetes medication, or at least reduce the medication that they need.
It's brilliant. It's very admirable. And it's nice to end on a high note about the medical profession, because I'm not knocking them. I'm just frustrated, because if I kept seeing the same thing, well, I do. I'm the reverse. I keep seeing these miraculous success stories from this way of eating. And it's amazing. If I worked in clinical practice, which I did, I did lots of rehab 15 years ago, I never got good results. It was only once people were coming in with results. I was doing my specialism in obesity and diabetes, and it was only patients that turned me on to low carb. I really believed in high carb. I believed it all, but too many of them that were doing well all said the same thing. Well, I've ignored what you've said. I've gone low carb. I've gone ketogenic, and the results spoke for themselves. So it took me 5 years of seeing that to suddenly go, right, this is completely wrong. When I got to 50, I thought, I'm not doing this. I definitely believe keto, low carb. And obviously 5 years ago, carnivore was the thing to do. So, Emily, I want to thank you so much for spending some time. I'd really like to keep in contact with you and maybe do a video again in 6 months or something, maybe a year, whatever suits you, because I do believe this isn't the end of your journey. I feel you're open to even more successes. I really do. Is there anything you want to end the interview with? If, say, for instance, somebody is on the fence, they are scared by the scaremongering, they believe it all. What would you say to them about doing this way of eating as opposed to the sort of mainstream way that doesn't seem to work for many people?
Number one, I would say nothing good is easy. Change is hard. However, the good thing is worth it. The health benefit is worth it. I would suggest trying it. Just give it a trial run for 90 days. Really dedicate yourself to 90 days of low carb, keto, carnivore, however you see it on that spectrum of what we're supposed to eat as humans. And at the 90 days, into the 90 days, you can assess, is my health improving? Is my health not improving? And then make a decision based on how your body is reacting, how you feel. I think once you experience the feelings that I'm experiencing, there's no way I would ever go back to the way I was eating before. There's no reason for me to go back to eating, because I feel like I'm a young girl again. I mean, it's life-changing, and there's always hope. It is never too late. If you're on dialysis, don't give up hope. Fight. Join the fight. Come on, join the fight. You can do it.